everyone, this is Persephone, and this is one of those videos that I love to make because first of all no one else is making them, and second because I think they can really help you if you let what I'm talking about sink in. It took me years of self-trying and self-discovery to come up with those things. And there are so many people who have been asking me why are so many people desperate, why are so many people lonely, or the people who are messaging you and so on. And I decided to combine a bunch of things that we are taught to believe that result in our lives being essentially destroyed. And by us, I mean generation millennials and everyone else, like the generation that comes after us, generation Z, I, whatever you want to call them. And this is something that I realized is being pushed so hard by our parents and grandparents to the point that you don't really doubt those things. But if you sit down and you think, what's the last time I used those principles and they made me happier? Like the answer is most likely never. And also all the people who are thriving in life, they don't follow those rules. I'm talking about rules, not laws. You should follow the law because, like I said, I get so many people who think I'm going to suggest weird things on this channel. I'm not. No one is worth you going to jail. So there are some things that I have been spoon-fed all of my life that are complete bullshit. Example number one, you constantly need cooperation from other people, support, encouragement, a family, friends, people to pat you in the back, people to have your back, a support system, and so on. All of those things are great. Of course, who wouldn't want to have a nice supportive family and who wouldn't want good friends? This is also a belief that is being enhanced by culture, especially American culture and movies, that if you see series like Friends, which is one of the series that for me it's a minus 10 out of 10, not even a 0, the people catch up with each other every second of every day and they have support constantly. So if you're a normal person and you grow up watching series like that, or even more modern series like Gossip Girl and stuff, you get the idea that this is how life should be. Or even if you watch series with supportive families. And if you are one of the many who don't have those things, you start feeling crippled, you start feeling depressed, you can't get out of your comfort zone. And we have gotten to the fact that qualities like self-reliant, self-determined, self-dependable are lost art. If you say to people, I'm a lone wolf, every time I say to people, because they come to me and they ask me, I say the only mentor I have is myself, and the only role model I look up to is myself 1 year from now. I don't follow anyone, I don't believe in anyone. There are plenty of people that I would say I admire and they get positive traits here and there, but I would never have a cult member mentality. Essentially, I'm on my own and I can work with people if the occasion calls for it, but I don't need them. So I see so many people shooting themselves on the foot because they're like, oh, my family is like that, I could never achieve anything. And this is something my ex used to do greatly, like King. I hated this so much about him that I wished him death. I was thinking, get cancer and die, get in a car accident, I'm going to push you down the stairs and kill you. I mean, I felt like that I was going to act on the feelings because he was the most privileged bitch on the planet. He was living in Beverly Hills for fuck's sake, and he would always be, yeah, but I couldn't do anything, my parents aren't supportive. And if I said, why didn't you get out of the house at 18? But how am I going to do that without support? And I hated that so much. Why do you need support to get out of the house at 18? You have your arms, your legs, and your brain. Get a freaking job and get out of the house if your parents are abusing you. Society wants us to be cucks. And they don't say cucks in the erotic femdom way. I say modern slavery way. They don't want you to feel that alone you can accomplish stuff. A person can move a nation alone if they put their mind into it. I don't understand why everyone is telling you to have a high self-esteem and to love yourself and all of that crap, but same time, the message you're getting two opposite messages. That you can do whatever you put your mind into and all of this secret and law of attraction stuff, but at the same time, you're being bombarded with ads, with series, with anime that you need a clan around you. For me, if someone offers help and support, say thanks and take it. If there is no one around, you can do without them. You never needed them. You know what I mean? This is something that I believed ever since I was very young, and I was abused for it. I was called schizoid, autistic. Those things, even if I'm schizoid or autistic or whatever, has nothing to do with the art of self-reliance. You can be perfectly normal and self-reliant, and you can be super successful. Very connected to that belief is the second belief that narcissists and psychopaths are 4% of the population, and the 96% of the population is normal, or they're a small percentage. I read this a few years ago, I don't know if it still stands, but if you ask me, narcissists and psychopaths are 90% of the population, and normal people are 10% at this point. I think it's a combination of things. Thing number one is that we live in a culture that promotes narcissism, selfies, social media, every 2 out of 10 women has an army of orbiters, and so on. Another thing is that, whether we like it or not, narcissism and psychopathy makes you advance in life, much more compared to an empath. So there are many people that, even if they are somewhere on the spectrum, they're encouraged to cultivate those traits. Like, if someone is slightly competitive, people are going to say, do your best, work harder, be number one, and a bunch of stuff that, because you know, all of those disorders are spectrums. You can score 30% and you can score 90%. But the thing is, if you have 30%, is society encourage you to act more normal or more psychopathic? I would say more psychopathic. So most likely, the people that they are around you, they don't want you to get ahead. This is a very taboo thing. Every time I say it, I was met all of my life with disbelief, with distrust, people saying I'm schizophrenic. By people, I mean mainly my mother, that would say that you're not normal, you think everyone is out there to get you, you are crazy, this is how your uncle started and we had to put him into the bin, like the mental hospital. The truth is somewhere in the middle. Every time you see a person trying to get ahead in life, every time someone comes to me, for whatever reason, because plenty of people try to talk to me or to approach me online, and I appreciate that when it's not abusive brain Ebola, they always say, I tried this and my mom wasn't supportive, my friend wasn't supportive, or I see girls who say I decided to date a wealthy man, or I decided to get a sugar daddy and my entire family is starving and they hate me for doing that. And I see, not just for sugaring, every time someone tries to do something, there is not really support from the family. I think there are family members like my mother who are malignant narcissists and they just don't want anyone to get ahead. And there are people who are into their comfort zone and they don't want you to get ahead, because think about it. If everyone in the family is fat and you start losing weight and you become healthy, that's a reminder that all of their bullshit are just excuses, and if they tagged along in your weight loss effort, they could lose weight too. But the thing is, they don't want to do it. But at the same time, they don't want to admit that they are a lazy piece of shit. Again, this is not applying for all fat people. I'm talking about specific examples in mind. They're lazy. They don't want to admit that they're lazy. So they're going to attack you and sabotage you so that no one does anything. So this situation is comfortable for them. And this is something that no person is going to admit to you. But they are like that. There are so many people like that. I know millions are like that. I had a friend in real life that she was heroic in trying to lose weight. She lost over 100 pounds with a dietitian and a doctor. And she had a sister who was morbidly obese, and the sister was trying to sabotage her every way possible. My friend would come home, she would cook for herself because she was still a student. That happened when we were in high school. And they would have 10 different types of food in the fridge, and her sister would eat her food. Or she would forget to buy healthy groceries. Or she would start fights that she knew that my friend was a binge eater and depression made her eat sugary stuff. Anything that she could to sabotage her. But every time my friend would point that out to their mother and to other relatives, they would say, how can you say that she's your sister? She loves you. Maybe she loves you, but she definitely loves herself more. Or if you are unlucky like me, maybe she doesn't love you and maybe she hates you. This is another belief, like all of those beliefs are connected. That's why I'm going from 1 to 2 to 3 and so on. The belief that just because someone is family loves you, just because someone has been your friend, they're actually a friend and not a frenemy. Those beliefs are cancerous. And a lot of cancerous religions promote them. Like people who are always telling me, but your mother, no matter what, is your mother. No, bitch, no matter what. She tried to poison me. For me, our DNA became water and the water evaporated. There are things that have to go both ways. You try to poison me, we're not family anymore. You steal my money, we're not family anymore. You try to sabotage me from going to college, we're not family anymore. And if you say, where did those examples come from? They come from yours truly and my personal life and childhood. So there does come a point where you have to cut off the cancer out of your life. And society isn't going to let you that. Society wants you fat, dumb, depressed, and a cuck. That's what it wants you to be. And it doesn't matter what country you're in, it doesn't matter what's your race, it doesn't matter what's your occupation. I'm telling you, I'm convinced we are in some kind of dystopia, and there is a depopulation plan. We have way too many people on this planet, some people have to go, and there is a system placed so that life is essentially a death match. If you can't climb out of the system, if you can't crawl out of the pits of the hell of the system, you're going to be erased. Okay? And I'm sorry if I make this scary or unpleasant video, but I want my audience to stay alive, so I'm going to give to you like the basics, the summary of what's going on. There is all of this culture that I experienced when I was in the normal workforce, or even worse, in the ambitious workforce, that the person who abuses themselves the most is the person who gets rewarded, and the person who practices basic self-care is the person who gets fired. I mean, I was at a job that if you are late or if you had to take more than 10 days per year, like an absence to leave, you got fired. I mean, especially, I didn't have kids at the time, but especially for the people who had kids, it's so freaking impossible to have emergencies only 10 days per year. I mean, okay, let's say you're not sick easily. What about the times where your kids are sick? What about the times where there's something else? They treat you like you're not human. Then there is this whole culture of eating healthy, cooking, all of those things have become Herculean tasks, and there is a system behind it. Those things are not just coincidences. And we live in such times of profound loneliness that even to do basic self-care has become so hard. I see so many people struggling with that and say, Persephone, I have no time to cook, I have no desire to cook. And I understand that when you're a single person in a big town and you don't know anyone and you're already working 16 hours a day, to go home to cook for what? You're just going to throw something at the microwave and zone out in front of the TV and then masturbate to porn and then go to bed. And ask yourselves, again related, why was porn so difficult to access on my father's time? Like on my father's time, men his age, they used to say that if you wanted porn, you needed to pay $100 and you needed to go to a public place to buy it, like a kiosk or something. And how often were you able to do that? It was extremely hard to have access to porn. And now, it's the most free thing in the world. You can just stumble upon porn without even looking for it. Why do you think is that? Why do you think that so many young men have porn addiction and depression and the death grip and they can't even be attracted to normal women? All of those are part of, for me, I'm not going to blame one government or one country. I believe this is a global thing and we have too many people, so they place systems to weed out people. Okay? And if you have internet, you're most likely in those societies that you're pretty much that weight. Okay? And I say this being a person that I live in a European shithole and I'm also that weight. So it's pretty much swimming upstream. You have to do the opposite of what they are telling you. If you want one piece of advice from me, because someone asked me to give advice, whatever they are telling you to do that is popular, don't do it. Do the opposite. They are telling you to stop meat consumption, eat meat. I'm not saying eat meat in every meal, but I'm so fed up with all of this vegan bullshit. My mother, when I was a teenager, forced me on a vegan diet. I developed so many deficiencies. I was losing my mind, my hair were falling, my nails were breaking, I had brain fog, I couldn't concentrate. And don't start me with the bullshit, yeah, but there are good nutritious combinations. Yeah, if I had a personal chef or if I didn't have anything to do but cook all day, I could also have a vegan diet that is healthy. I'm talking about the average person. Can the average person maintain a vegan diet? I bet my life not. And I'm sorry if vegans are offended, that's just my opinion. Another belief that is going to ruin your life is forgiveness, giving too many chances, being the better person. Being the better person and forgiving makes you the sucker. Let me tell you that I experienced that with Kim, second-handed cuckoldry, and it ruined my life as much as his. Every time you forgive an abuser and you don't cut off the abuser, they lose respect for you. Next time they're going to fuck you over harder, and then more abusers see that. You have to cut off every person who is hurting you. And if a person goes after you sadistically, you fuck them over twice as sadistically. That's how I live by, and I have gotten rid of so many abusers that Kim couldn't get rid of for years and years. For example, Justin. Kim would always say that I'm afraid to retaliate to Justin, and as a result, Justin was ruining his life and laughing at him for 10 years. Similarly to his family, the fake family, because if you have those people as family, you don't even need enemies, they're worse than enemies. There is so much abuse and indoctrination going, like indoctrination to not fight back. Not fight back. Why? When is your natural instinct to fight back? Why is everyone telling you to not fight back? Because you're the cock in the story. Do you know that expression that they say that 3 out of 4 people are straight? Like if there are 4 friends, 1 out of 4 is gay. So if 3 of your friends are not gay, then you're gay. This kind of paradox. I mean, obviously that's not true. It's like a fun thing to say, but I'm saying that if everyone around you tells you to not fight back and you're constantly abused, you're the cock in the situation. Okay? I'm sorry for saying that. Then there is this whole therapy cult. And I say this being in all kinds of therapy in my entire life. You're going to say, so first of all, you don't believe in therapy. I believe in therapy as a tool, definitely. I don't believe in therapy like some people follow it like a religious cult. You see situations online, horrible situations, especially Reddit. Please, people, if you want one more advice from me, never use Reddit and Facebook. It's like destroying brain cells. I'm sorry that I don't have the scientific means to show you the destruction. Like, you're going to end up stupid if you read in there. Let's say you go on Reddit on our relationships. No matter what the situation is, people are going to recommend counseling. Someone goes there and says, I saw an actual post today on our relationships or our surviving infidelity, because I scour through many different subs to see what's going on. Not always, occasionally. And there was a guy who said, my girlfriend chatted up over 50 men online and pretended to be their girlfriend. She had an addiction into making men think she's going to date them and then dumping them. What should I do with her? And then people under recommending going to couples counseling with her. The woman is like a raging sociopath or a narcissist. She's playing sadistically with random men online, raising their hopes up, lonely, like depressed men, and then breaking them. What is there to go to counseling with that demonic entity? There are people who are saying, I haven't had sex with my wife for 4 years on dead bedrooms. What should I do? And people say, have you tried counseling? I don't know what people expect. Like, you're going to walk into a counselor's office and you're going to say, my wife hasn't fucked me in 4 years. What do you think the counselor is going to do for you? Do you think he's going to talk to her into wanting to fuck you? Let me tell you something as a woman. We know within seconds if we want to have sex with a guy or not. And if the woman doesn't want to have sex with that guy for 4 years, probably she married him for the wrong reasons. Or maybe he became 400 kg, or maybe he cheated, or maybe he has a micropenis, or maybe she was never into him but everyone else was getting married. There is something going on. The solution to those cases is to bite the bullet and end the relationship, or to change yourselves. Because I see also other types of ads, political correctness, where people are saying, I can't find anyone to date, and then you look at their profile picture and they're 600 pounds. And no one is telling them, dude, you're morbidly obese, your life is in danger, you're dying. Instead of fuck dating, fuck everything, and start the weight loss right now, go to your doctor right now, and no one is saying it to them. We're talking about this much fakeness. So, okay, let's go back to therapy. My ex said, my ex, the shrink, he's very famous on this channel, although he has told me that he never wants to be doxxed or harassed again because they found him and harassed him. He said there are therapy clinics who say, we want to make the patients feel good. Our first goal is to make the patients feel good, not to change them. Do you know why they say that? Do you know why those quack clinics say that? Because most people, they don't go to therapy wanting to change. They go to therapy wanting someone to sympathize with them and to enable them and to say, yeah, the world is so bad to you, poor baby, you're right, you're such a victim. That's what they want. So if you tell them the hard steps that they need to take to change their lives, they're going to leave. They're going to walk out of the door because they don't like what they're hearing. But if you actually like sweet talk them into staying, your clinic gets more and more and more profit. I believe that you should go to therapy if you want to try it individually for cognitive behavioral therapy, or if you're going through some form of extreme grief and you need medication to cope. It's not the same, like I said, a death, some extreme traumatic event, a miscarriage, whatever is traumatic to each person, it's not the same, and it's useful and it could be life-saving. But don't go to therapy for artificial depression. What is artificial depression? Living with an abuser. I have been diagnosed with depression so many times. I was never depressed. I don't think that I was ever actually depressed, in the sense of I was living with a person, locking me up in dark rooms, hitting me, force-feeding me, starving me, having delusional beliefs like emotional, verbal, psychological abuse, forcing me to stop being autistic. Forcing someone to not being autistic has as much success as gay conversion therapy. You cannot say I'm an ex-gay, I converted into being straight. If you're gay, you're gay, okay? And she was forcing me to quote-unquote be normal. And we went to so many fucking shrinks, like psychiatrists, because psychologists, they sit with me 30 minutes and then they leave the room screaming. Because usually when I was like a teenager or like 11, from the ages of 11 to 15, one of my sadistic hobbies was harassing psychologists. So usually they put me directly with psychiatrists, and they were saying depression and prescribing antidepressants. Like, do you know that I live with Hannibal Lecter? What freaking depression? Like, shutting down as response to extreme trauma is not depression. Also, complex post-traumatic stress disorder is not depression. It may manifest, it may have symptoms like that. Also, being borderline during the depressive stage is not depression. If you give antidepressants to a borderline or to a bipolar, they may turn manic and start killing people or killing themselves. Extreme, but possible. So, why did all of those people just rush me out of the door, diagnosing me as depressed? First of all, if you sell enough drugs, the doctor who sells the most drugs may get a 10,000 euro bonus, may get a trip to New York for 2 weeks at a 5-star hotel. So there is huge motivation to pump people with drugs, even drugs that they don't need or even drugs that they don't solve the problem. Second, most people just want to see as many patients as possible. In order to diagnose someone with depression and to not see if they are borderline, you have to observe them for months, so that the borderline or the bipolar moves into the hypomanic or the manic stage and you see what's going on. If they are depressed, they may remain depressed for a significant period of time. So you don't want to deal with them. And third and most important reason that my ex used to always talk about every time we had a fight, because I had a fight about this pretty much daily, he would say, okay, because I would say all of those doctors were back alley quack charlatans, and he would be offended because he was a shrink and shrinks covered each other up. He would say, you know, Persephone, even if someone saw that your mother is a malignant narcissist, what can he do? CPS cannot really help you. Foster homes, all of those things are bullshit. Most of the cases in a foster home, you're going to end up molested, you're going to end up even more abused. Very few are the people that they are going to end up in a good foster home. And especially for someone like me that I was autistic and half insane, no one would even want to take me in when I was a kid. So he could say, you know, they can't do anything, they just try to like make it more tolerable with drugs. Bullshit. So I think that therapy may work, may not work. It's worth it trying if you have the money, but definitely it's not the holy grail that is going to solve every problem. Like, has your boyfriend been cheating with 50 men and 60 women? Go couples counseling. Has your dick grown like a spider web so thick that you look down and you can't see it because you're in a dead bedroom that has become skeletal for 50 years? Go couples counseling. Is your mother burning your house, stealing your money, poisoning your food with arsenic? Go couples counseling. Go family counseling. No, this doesn't work like that. But everyone is going to tell you that, and when you go to therapy and when it doesn't work, because it's not going to work, they're going to say it's your fault that it didn't work. It's very similar to the toxic aspect of Asian culture, that everything could be solved by you being more filial. And if something doesn't work, it's because you weren't filial. There is no other reason. Like, psychopathy doesn't exist in Asian culture, and narcissism doesn't exist, and parents are gods who can do no wrong. But anyway, I'm not going to turn this into an Asian culture video. Another thing that is very, very problematic and may ruin your life is adopting things or believing things just because you read them or you see them on the news or you see them on movies, and in reality they don't work. People are saying, why do you talk so much about Asian white relationships? Because for me, I was a victim of pro-interracial dating propaganda. The only channel right now on the internet that talks about the reality of interracial and international dating is mine. You won't find another channel on the planet. If you find one, please recommend it. I'm going to follow it and I'm going to congratulate the person for their honesty. That doesn't mean that what happened to me, the human trafficking situation, is going to happen to you. But maybe it's going to happen to you. So I think any person who wants to be in an international or interracial relationship, they should know about the dangers so they can make informed decisions, or they can spot the red flags early on and protect themselves. I'm not against interracial dating in a sense of, if you want to do it, I'm not going to tell you don't do it. I'm just going to tell you be careful, which is the same with every other relationship. But because of the international and interracial nature of it, there are some things that you need to be extra careful that they don't exist when you date within your race. So my point is that there is this huge culture that they cover up a lot of things and they show us only one side of it. And by the time you realize you fucked your life over, it's too late, you're too deep in. There are so many people sleepwalking through life, suffering in silence in those situations. Example, motherhood. Did you know that 30 or 40% of the women who are giving birth actually have huge complications giving birth, and they may end up in a C-section with permanently damaged genitals, that they may pee on themselves or poop on themselves for the rest of their lives, and surgery to correct this is usually not covered by any insurance, extremely difficult, and it may or may not fail. I'm not saying that women shouldn't become mothers. If you want to have kids, you should definitely have them, but I'm saying that, for example, this is a very important thing, and I say this with a feminist undertone, that they have been hiding the truth from women. And I say this after reading so many things about medical violence during childbirth and stuff, that women end up traumatized and no one is actually telling you that, you know, this may happen, and pick a doctor wisely, or check your weight, check your baby's weight, do things to prevent your health from deteriorating. So much stuff that no one is telling you, because they say, oh, if we told women the reality of the situation, humanity would go extinct. Bullshit. So it's more moral to tell women that, oh, everything is going to be fine, our bodies are designed for this, and then ruin their lives. I mean, if you ask many women who have kids, they will tell you that it was the most horrible thing. Why is it the most horrible? I think that there are women who are like, indeed, they are in a better situation, they are more fit, they are more lucky, they have a smaller baby, and there are women who have horrible problems. And no one is telling them that. There is so much misinformation, and motherhood and childbirth is one of many things that they actually don't tell you, that the long-term effects of things that you put on your body, that you think, that you do every day, that they're going to kill you. And my advice on that would be, whatever they're telling you, do your own research. Don't just believe one doctor blindly. Don't just believe one research blindly. Don't believe things like Fox News blindly. Do research even online, or talk to people in real life if you have them, that you know that they're not going to bullshit you, and get to your own conclusion. And even if you want to ask the people around you, the final conclusion for yourself should be yours. I believe that no one is going to take your health more seriously than yourself, your reproductive health, your finances, your healing. It should be on you, your responsibility, and don't go around actually thinking that, oh, this is a doctor, so they must know. I was reading the story of a woman that is somewhat of a celebrity, like a fitness instructor, extremely healthy woman, that she said when she was 26, she started doing IVFs because she was having a doctor who somehow diagnosed her with unexplained infertility and scared her and said, you won't have kids, IVFs are necessary. And she had 9 IVFs because she desperately wanted children. And when she gave up and she said, I'm barren, I'm never having children, she got pregnant naturally. And then she got pregnant naturally 2 more times, and one time was twins, and now she has 4 daughters. And she said she went to a couple of doctors that they were very famous, and they were doctors pushing IVF on women without actually having a reason. She said, I should have waited more. And after that, the stress was so much, and she spent $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, I don't know. And she was saying, don't blindly trust people. I don't care if you're your family, your friends, the doctor, always do your own research, always get multiple opinions when it's an important matter. Another thing, when it comes to finances, that's going to be probably the last for this video. I can make a follow-up if you're interested. The amount of people who are financially illiterate that come to me every day is shocking. I'm going to sum it up. I've said it many times. You cannot be rich by working a job. If your only income is a job, and you go to the office and you come home and you save that $3 Starbucks drink, and you think that in 137 years you're going to pay back your student loans, and when you're 75 you're going to retire a king, it's not going to happen. Do you know why? Because the system is designed, but by 75 you're going to have eaten so much junk. You're going to have missed thousands of hours of sleep, which is causing cancer, autoimmune, a bunch of stuff. You're going to have been exposed to so many toxins. You're going to have kept so many toxic people around you for years and years that you're going to die before you're 75, and the government won't have to pay you a pension. If you want to become rich, or if you want to even be financially stable, you need multiple sources of income, which means, I'm not saying do e-whoring, I'm not saying do weird stuff. I'm saying if you like your job, keep your job. Always in your free time, you should set up a side business or a side skill or something you can do to feed yourself and save up some money or invest that money on your business. Even if you don't want to be an entrepreneur, that for me it's the only source of potential wealth. Find something that you can do that if somehow your company moves to India tomorrow, your income, your monthly income won't be zero. It has to be more than zero. I always read that, and I believe it's true, that in order to have even basic financial stability, you need to have saved up 6 months worth of expenses in advance. For example, if you need $2,000 per month to survive, you need to have $12,000 in cold cash in the bank. Not debt, not debit cards and credit cards and shit, cash. How many people have that? If you look at your finances right now, and you got fired tomorrow, or something happened tomorrow, do you have the money to survive 6 months? And if you ask a person, why 6 months? Because statistically, 80% of the unemployed people who are seriously looking for a job, they find one within 6 months. So if you have that amount and you are on the lucky 80%, you can survive. I'm going to take it a step further and say, what if you are on the 20%? What if you don't find a job after 6 months? This is where the side business comes to save your ass. Because let me tell you something, I have many side businesses. People don't know all of them. Obviously, I'm not going to share all of them on YouTube, but those are the things that kept me afloat when my useless husband and his even more useless family did all of the credit card shit. And those are the things that even if I'm depressed or I have PTSD one day and I can't get out of bed, I make money even on my sleep. And you know something? That actually makes me less depressed. The agony when I was on the lucrative job that, oh my God, if something happens and I lose my job, I can't stay afloat, that agony was killing me. I would rather shoot myself in the head than go back to that situation. And if you say, what about your family? My family? Taking money from them, even if it was my money, it's like you can make a deal with Satan and he's going to abuse you less than my parents. Technically speaking, I could have asked my grandmother when she passed away, she left me an inheritance.